Commit to the play and don't feel like you're the worst one in the class.
It's really cool to kind of see them think outside of the box.
Sometimes those criticisms aren't necessarily right.
It's a great idea, but it has to be educational.
Hello everyone, welcome back to The Green Room, Season 2, Episode 1. This is our great return, and I'm sitting down with Kendel Hale. She's a local photographer, and just a pretty darn good one in that. So I kind of want to just, since it's about photography, and we'll jog somewhere else, what started you on the camera stuff?
Oh gosh, it was so long ago, and I kind of think back, and I really don't know. Mm-hmm. My parents got me just like a little red power shoot, and just like you zoom in with the button. Mm-hmm. It didn't have you couldn't change the lens or anything, and I just took tons of photos with that, and that's kind of what got me started. But I didn't even own a camera or a computer or anything.
Mm-hmm. Dang.
So it was just one of those deals where I liked it and I just picked it up.
I think the first camera I ever owned was it was like a flip thing, which is like it was the brand name, and it was essentially like it had a USB that stuck out of it. And like there was no other kind of memory cards. It was one lens. You just like shoot and then import it immediately.
Yeah.
Terrible quality. But like I filmed like so many weird skate videos on that, and like any like little adventures and stuff I'd go on.
Yeah.
It was like the early days too is like you don't consider what it can do. You're just like, it's a camera, great. Like that's it. And so that was your first camera, what would you grow up into?
Okay, so from there I just was playing. Like I just took photos, whatever I saw, whatever I liked, whatever just like caught my attention. And then I grew up in like a really Western lifestyle, like my dad cowboyed and stuff. And so it took a lot of photos like that. But I think I was a junior in high school, and somebody was like, I really want you to take pictures of my wedding. We don't care, we just want photos. And I'm like, you know that I don't do this for a living, right? Like, I'm a brand new. And she's like, I don't care. And my uncle actually had, like, he did video and stuff, and he kind of played in it a little bit. So he had a camera, and so he let me borrow his camera to take pictures. And literally I borrowed everything that was his. Like, I borrowed his camera, I was editing on his computer and using all of his software. Like, I had to go to his house. And so that was like my first gig ever. And then from there, like I did pick up a couple, I did some seniors when I was in high school still too, and it was all on his stuff. So a lot of what I knew, like, he kind of taught me just in terms of editing, and pretty much just in terms of editing. We went over like a little bit of camera settings and stuff like that, but then I did take a class when I took like I guess it would be a dual credit class when we were in high school. I don't know if you ever took those. But I took that, and that kind of helped. But when I went off to college, like, that was it. I couldn't take anything with me. So I took a couple years off.
Oh, wow. Okay. After the break, like, were you thinking about it while you were off? Or, like, did that even have kind of, when you did that first one, were you at all thinking, like, this is what I'm going to do now?
The first wedding? I don't know. I liked weddings, but I liked portraits more, because I remember like looking back at my portraits of pretty much just like everybody that we went to school with. I'm like, that's so fun. Like, this is great. But like I went off to college, and I was just like really focused on like school, because photography, like, I fought it a lot. I was like, I can't make money doing this. I can't make a living doing this. I need to focus on, I think I started in animal science is what I went to school for starting out.
Interesting. Okay.
But I had people who like really, they liked the photos that I had taken, and I would post a little bit on Facebook. Like, I didn't have anything that I was really sharing, like a platform or anything like that. And a gal in Canada, actually, who really, like, she knew some of my family, but she really always has kind of supported my work and liked my stuff. And she said, I have this camera, I'm not using it, I'm gonna mail it to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just like a little Rebel, and nothing like what I'm shooting on now, but it was still like a really good camera, like a jump up from obviously nothing that I had. And so sent that to me in the mail. Like, I tried to pay for it, and she wouldn't let me, and so she's just like, I just want you to keep shooting, like, don't quit shooting. So once I got that, like, I think it was my second year in school, I did take 2 semesters of photography classes. And from there, so I got the camera, and then I think it had like just a standard kit lens on it, you know. And then from there, like I was just playing with the kit lens and kind of really learning camera settings, because when I was in high school, like I didn't really venture off of, you know, like the setting, like the standard, like you can do like aperture mode, shutter speed, and then you can jump into manual, and manual was so scary. I was like, I can't do manual. But taking that class like really, really helped just to kind of break it down. And so like the first class, I was like, I didn't learn anything. I already knew everything that I learned in this class. And then when I got to the second, because like you can take like photography 1 or digital arts 1 and then digital arts 2. So when I got to the second one, that's when I really, like, it really kind of paid off for me, because it broke it into like how to do light metering and like how to follow like back and forth with your aperture and your shutter speed. So that was probably the most valuable class that I ever took.
Like it's interesting for me because so I owned a camera for a little bit, like that weird flippy thing, and then didn't have one for a long time, and it was just like shoot on your phone, shoot on the iPad, and like, dude, Apple cameras like on the phones, genuinely great. I'm a huge fan. But like when I started getting back into YouTube like a couple years ago, I was like, I literally only have my phone, so like that's all I used. And then when I started here, we're using stuff like this, and I'm just like, what the heck? Like I don't know how to do any of this. And so yeah, manual mode was super intimidating. But I used the crap out of that kit lens, like just making it do stuff that like it probably isn't made for, and like they're so light and plasticky, but like you kind of get this bond, like this is all I have. And then when we started getting different lenses and like I started expanding my knowledge on that, now it's like, it's not so much, even learning a new camera, it's not so much the equipment anymore. It's like, now I understand the tools don't matter as much. It's what you can do with it. But getting new gear is very interesting, very fun.
It is exciting, but it's also a bit of a learning curve too, from jumping from a kit lens to say like a prime lens where you can't actually change anything.
Yeah,
so
that's like a while. A lot of these things we're getting into with cameras as well, I watch a tutorial or a review and it's just numbers and just boring stuff, and I'm like, dude, I don't care, but I need to know.
I would sit down and Google everything. Like they'd pop all these terms out, and I'm like, okay, what's that? And then kind of figure it out from there. But yeah, so that was all I had, and I took some classes, and then after I took those 2 classes, I was like, oh, I don't know, whatever. But my best friend really just was like, you need to get out there, you need to take pictures, like you're good, like go take pictures. And so she had me go to like a little horse show that was over, because I was in New Mexico. I went to school at New Mexico State University. Okay. And so I went over there. I just had my kit lens, and I'm like, I can't use this. Like, this isn't going to reach, like, and get all of the action, because, you know, the arena is, like, huge. It's a big space. Yeah. And you can't really be in the action. Like, you're just on the side. So I ended up renting a lens to fit my camera, and I used that. And then it just kind of escalated from there. You know, like you share stuff and people hear stuff, and I think I got a couple more senior photos going from there, and then I picked up a wedding that summer and did a wedding, and then it just like kept going. And so it was just like a lot. Like I wasn't doing anything. I was just posting photos and like sharing them to my clients that I was picking up, and then it got to the point where like my workload was getting pretty heavy for that camera. So then I was like, well, I want to try different stuff. And so I was renting the camera that I'm shooting on now. Like I was renting different cameras and trying different things, and ended up picking up some lenses, you know, like you just kind of accumulate stuff. But yeah, it just, it was kind of crazy how it just like it all started from there.
It almost seems like it kept like calling to you, and you're just like, nah, photography, go away.
I fought it hard.
That's really interesting. Like I listen to this other podcast called The Creative Pep Talk, and the host of that show is always talking about you have to answer the call to adventure, even when like you know you probably shouldn't, like whatever. So it's cool that like it was chasing you through this whole time, and you eventually like fall into it.
Yeah, I mean that is true, because I wasn't really advertising. I didn't even really have, I didn't have really any social media platforms either. I think I made a Facebook page and then eventually made an Instagram page, but and then I have a website. But like
Yeah.
I had to do these things because I had people coming to me and like, well, how can I look at photos? Where can I get them from? It was just one of those things where like it kept happening, so I had to respond and like get professional almost because I kept picking up clients. You know, I really wasn't putting out any type of marketing or advertising because I was a full-time student at the time. And I also like, you know, had other jobs that I was doing, and so I didn't really work too hard at trying to get clients because I'm like, I don't have time. Like mostly it was like, oh well, they want me to shoot, so I'm gonna do that. I'll take their pictures. But you know, I kind of had to make an Instagram and a Facebook and make a website because they were like, well, how do I find photos? How do I see what you have? So it was more of like the clients were driving me to start my business than anything else.
Good problem to have for sure.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because like even looking at your website now and like, dude, I will nerd out about those flash drives all the time because like seeing that, it looked like, because when I deliver a product, I deliver it through Google Drive because it's just like, it's the easiest. Everyone has Gmail, whatever. And then the immediate follow-up thing is, it's not allowing me access. And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I've been there. I've done that. That's how I started.
Yeah.
Well, they'd be like, well, can you send them to me? They'd pay me the money for the photos. So for like the horse shows and stuff, they wanted to buy pictures and digital files. And so I would send stuff over Gmail and it would be, this file is too large to send.
Yeah.
So then it just got out of control. And I think I ended up setting up like an online gallery and then went from there. But I have a website too. Like I'm working on getting them to be together, but they're separate right now.
Nice. Yeah, like Zach and I are building our own website and we've built it and destroyed it and rebuilt it like 6 times now. And it keeps changing and it's getting better as we go. But like he was at the beginning was like, let's use Squarespace. And I almost wanted to say yes, but I was like, well, I heard WordPress is much more customizable. Big mistake. Like we're getting better at it, but it is so... Are you
using WordPress right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what... So I went with WordPress too, and that's another thing entirely. So it's one thing to just, you know, be a photographer and just like enjoy taking pictures, but when you like dive in to all that, you know, there's so much stuff you don't think about. Like you have to have a host and a domain and everything, like all of this other stuff that just pops up and you're like, what is this? Why do I have to do that?
We're still working on our SEO. Like we want to get found. It's just like there is a lot more to the business that you don't hear too much about.
Yeah.
So now that you've built your own business, is this something you want to continue doing, or is it like kind of a fun side thing?
I guess I'm probably back where I started, where I'm fighting it pretty hard.
Yeah.
But I probably will, like I really want to work towards making it into a full-time business because I'm kind of taking a little bit of a step back and like a reset, and I miss doing it.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I'm going to do weddings anymore. I'm kind of...
I think we've shot 3 or 4 weddings by now. And essentially like when you shoot one, unless they're in some crazy exotic location, you've shot them all.
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same. Like every bride wants the same type of stuff because I mean like it's the same for you. Shooting it over and over again, it's exhausting, but it's new to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what's hard, and like that's something that I always have to tell myself, like they're going to be excited because even though this isn't like an original shot, it's new for them and it's special for them. But it is just long days, stressful days, and it's hard because I invested a lot into learning how to do it. Like I had like all my off camera flashes and setups and like had to really teach myself how to use those, and just like being quick and always being ready, and you kind of have to constantly be watching your settings too because you're inside, you're outside, your white balance is going to shift and change every time, and you have to just like follow and work with it and always be watching your metering so that you know where you're at. Cause
like in our experience so far, it's been mostly outdoor stuff, but anytime, man, especially we've shot a couple like LDS weddings, like we're at the temple, like there's so many people there. The first one we showed up to, we couldn't find the party because there's just large groups of people standing outside the doors, and we're like, this is it, right? Hoping that we don't miss our actual party. But now that, so you're more a photographer, do you do any video stuff?
Okay, so like 2 years ago, I've always liked video. Like sometimes I would just sit there and watch YouTube videos and I would literally waste hours.
Yeah.
But I've always liked video, and it's just kind of scary. Like it was a scary thing because, photography is a little bit more forgiving and flexible. When you get into video, it's like you really have to know. And so I think 2 years ago, like I invested in an online course and like really wanted to get like into it because I wanted to be able to do the photography with the video. That didn't really work out. But I did kind of keep with the course, and like I'm still wanting to be able to get into that. It's just been a slower process. But
What course did you get?
I took the Parker Wallbeck course.
Yeah, full-time filmmaker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So when I first got that, I absorbed all of it, and like he's added so much new stuff. I just haven't been into it.
The problem here with me is like I don't have the gear to be able to go out. I mean, I do, but like I don't have like any. I don't have a glide cam. I don't have any like motorized gimbals or anything like that. And so,
dude, let's talk about accessories for a second, because I own a lot more accessories than I do camera gear. And when I first saw smooth B-roll, I'm like, that is all I want to do. I don't care what else I'm doing. Smooth B-roll is where it's at.
Right.
So I get a glide cam, and that is a device that actively works against you.
So hard.
And everyone, like even Parker on that course, yeah, just do this, and you're just like, just do this. Like the camera's like super heavy, the wind is pushing it everywhere. Impossible device to use, but when you get like a good glide cam shot, it like warms the heart.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. And I think too, to go from taking photos into jumping into video, like I've learned so much that I've actually been able to bring back into my photography. I may not be using the video right now, but it's been helpful, especially with like my white balance and like how to set that. And I think it's helped like make my end product a lot better. But holy moly, it's hard. Just keeping focus has been really hard.
Dude, yeah. Especially so with sometimes like on this lens that we're filming on right now, like autofocus works pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
On my new camera, because I'm not using Panasonic lenses, I have no autofocus.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes there's this video I'm working on right now. I was putting together my skateboard. In the last shot, I would spin the wheel and like rotate the camera outward as focus would gather on it. That was like 70 tries to get it, because like I would get right where the focus point was and then move slightly out of it. I have to do it over and over and over again. Oh man.
It's hard.
But for you going from photo to video, I feel like it's the more logical progression. But for me, I went the other way. I started with video, and then I didn't like photography for a while because I was like, how do you capture one good moment? Because if my frame moves a bunch, I can trick the eye to think it's exciting because of movement and background.
Right, that's true.
But photo is just, boop, just the one.
Just the one.
And that was stressful for me, but I've been getting really into it lately.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like switching from photo to video has been hard, but I don't know. I just kind of just go with it and just lots of clicking, lots of shots. Yeah. I will take so many photos and then go through and I'm like, why do I have so many photos?
Yeah, I feel that exact pain. So what are you shooting on now?
So I'm shooting on a Canon 5D Mark III, and I really, really love it, except since I've gotten into video, I wish I had the Mark IV because you can shoot 60 frames per second and you can't on the Mark III, but
it only does 24. 24. So like, yeah, only recently have I got into slow-mo stuff because 24 is all I ever had, and like there's a lot of cool things you can do with 24, but like we're working on this big documentary right now, and you have no idea, like you probably do have an idea. There's so many moments where you're just like, if this was like a half second longer, it would be perfect, and I can't deal with it. And like, so now that I have slow-mo, it's like I'm shooting in 4K all the time, 60 frames all the time. I've almost just abandoned 24 in general. Like I don't want anything to do with it. And 120 frames, we in this music video we recorded recently, we did an entire take of the song at 120 frames. The song's almost 5 minutes long. And so for every 1 second of 24 or 1 second of 120, it's 5 or 10 seconds of 24. That clip's like 20 minutes long.
Jeez.
Just one song.
You know, it might be 120 that it doesn't do. I just remember like I wanted it to be in slow motion and I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be off, but it's been a while since I did that.
What could you, like, now that you've been doing this, and I think you and I understand each other more because we've built our own businesses this way, has this changed the relationship with the art for you? Like, is it still really fun, or is it more like, this is a job?
I think it kind of comes and goes, especially because, like, it's not something that I do full time, so I have long breaks in between, which, like, is nice because I'm like, oh man, like, I really miss doing this. But also it's kind of hard because it's, like, if you're not constantly keeping, like, I should be probably taking photos more than I am, but if you're not constantly using it and taking photos, it's like you kind of have to jog your memory a little bit. But it is nice because it's, for me, it's just, like, makes me appreciate a little bit more. Like, I take breaks, I'm like, man, like, I really like doing this. So I don't know, if I'm eventually, like, I want to be doing it full time, and I don't know, like, maybe it would become exhausting, but I do know, like, taking it from, like, a hobby and something that you just do for fun into a business is, like, it's a jump for sure. Like, you have to be, there's a lot of stuff you're not prepared for, and working with clients and customers and a whole range of people that, like, don't really, some people will see it the same way you do and some people won't, and that is also a struggle.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, different clients too, like, whether it's, like, price point, what they expect from you, even, like, sometimes the way you communicate just back and forth casually. Sometimes we'll, like, ask a client, like, okay, what's your budget? And the whole what's your budget, what's your rate thing is an endless, oh my God. But sometimes you're like, okay, let's do this video. And they don't account for the time it takes to plan or get ready for. They just, like, almost expect you to just bust in the door with the camera and be like, bang, 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 like you're ready. And so that's been kind of a weird thing to get used to, because, like, normally when I started here doing video, it was more, hey, look what I made. And the company was like, sick, let's do some more of this. And I was like, oh, dang. So then it became more of a thing, and then there was, like, the building the reputation. You start to know people, and, like, they expect, kind of like they see your body work and they expect something again, which is a neat and awful pressure to have. But now I've discovered that I don't spend as much time creating for myself as I used to.
Yeah.
And so, like, doing what I do, amazing, super fun. But, like, you come in every day, you clock in, or you meet up with the client, and it's create right now. You're just like, oh, crap. And so, like, when I have time to finally make a video for myself, I have so much more time to plan it and edit it, and, like, it feels really fulfilling. And I think if there's anyone watching or listening who thinks, like, they want to make this their job, dude, the thing I've learned immediately is cut out time for yourself.
Yeah, that, I would agree with that 100%. And that's something that I struggle with because, you know, like, I'm, like, coming from a business standpoint, I want to be, like, making my end product for my clients. So I'm constantly like, well, I have to do this for them. I have to, like, all of my time gets put towards that. And I'm thinking, like, well, you know, are they going to like this? And then you kind of lose that mindset of, like, this is my work. Like, I need to be doing this for myself.
And that's been strange too, being, like, your own boss, is, like, sometimes, like, we're at a shoot and I'm waiting around for someone to tell me what to do. And then they're like, so are we good to go? I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, no, it is hard. And I think too, it's just like making yourself get out there and do that is a struggle too.
Very true. And so besides photography, do you do any other, like, creative stuff? Do you paint, draw, or whatever?
Yeah, a little bit. So I like to draw, and I took a charcoal class when I was in college, and I'm trying to get into painting. It's hard, but also just, like, having some other form of creative outlet for me helps keep me on point with everything else. So, like, I kind of do, like, I like to redo furniture and stuff like that too, and just, like, anything that I can, like, use my hands and get creative helps kind of keep me on track, because I think too, sitting on a computer and editing for hours is exhausting, and you're looking at it and you're like, gosh, like, I cannot look at this any longer. So it kind of helps keep me refreshed, I guess.
Yeah, I agree, because, like, with, like, a lot of the other creative stuff I do, because I want this to be, like, I don't want to be doing client work forever. I would like to just exist as an artist and be paid for it, like, whether it's, like, YouTube, I guess, is the idea, you know, like you just make a video, ad revenue or Patreon or something comes
Mm-hmm.
in. But like, yeah, if I go skate or if I like draw and stuff, a lot of times I'm worried in the back of my head, like, I need to film this, I need to monetize this. But then that also dilutes sometimes like the joy of the whatever I'm doing.
You almost feel guilty because you're like, oh my gosh, I should be working on other stuff.
Exactly, all the time. That's a constant stress. And that's not something I had when I had normal jobs.
Yeah, well, and I think too when you're starting out fresh, like you're just constantly trying to like do what you can for the business. And so for me right now, originally I wanted it to be where like I had work that people could buy, like fine art prints and stuff like that.
Gotcha,
and I
yeah.
kind of drifted away from that. I think probably because I was just picking up clients constantly and I didn't really have time. So I've taken a step back and I'm trying to put my energy towards making that kind of stuff available because I have so many photos that I have never posted or shared, and that's another thing is I am terrible about sharing photos, like so bad.
I try and remember, like, so I don't shoot like every day. I'll shoot in like 3 or 4 day batches, and then I have a bunch of stuff, and then I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to spam Instagram.
Exactly.
But then I'll post one picture, and like a month later, I'm like, oh, there's these other 15 I just kind of forgot about.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at too.
And then like with video especially, but like if I finish anything, I want to have like a backlog, you know, so I can space out when I post stuff.
Yeah.
I get like way over energetic about it, and I'll post all at one time, and then I'm just out of content for like 3 months.
Yeah, it's hard. And then sometimes too, especially for like my professional page, it's hard because you want it to kind of all flow.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I think that's big in the wedding and the like portrait art industry is like when you look at your Instagram page, like it should all be consistent. And that was a hard thing for me too, is getting all of my work to be consistent in just like in terms of editing, because you're shooting in different locations and you've got different skin tones, different lighting. There's just so much that goes into play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard.
I feel you. So now that like you do kind of have the business coming in, have you found anything like that objectively works to build like an audience or any like revenue or I guess advertising? I probably do. I did do like Facebook ads for a little while, and since I'm taking a step back, I haven't really been posting a lot, but I did a mentorship with Lindsay Garber. She's a big wedding photographer. Okay.
And she pretty much told me, like, you need to be posting a lot more. Like, you're not posting enough. You need to be on their feed because of, like, the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not showing up. And so that is something that I should be doing more of. That's probably, it would probably be better if I stuck with that. But still trying to figure out, like the SEO and everything like that. It's hard.
It is hard, and it's confusing because like a lot of the back end website stuff never would have thought about before, and now it's like you're trying, especially on Instagram or Facebook or even your own website, you're trying to play this imaginary game with everyone else who's also doing the same thing, and so like trying to rank higher or get like just more eyeballs on stuff is essentially an easy task, because it's like, well, if I put it out there, it's there, but then having people find it is like totally different.
Yeah, it's hard.
And so now that you have achieved the things you've achieved, do you have any, if like someone starting out right now was like, teach me how to do what you do, would you have any, like, besides the technical know-how, like any just like philosophical advice?
I don't know. I would probably say just keep producing a product. Like, just keep taking photos, just keep working, just keep doing it. Whether you think it's good or whether you think it's bad, just keep doing it, because I think that is probably what has gotten me to the point that I'm at today in terms of like the value of my product and how it looks. Because I look back at my first wedding that I shot and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is terrible. Like, that looks terrible. Why did I pose them that way? What was I thinking? Why did I edit it that way? That was bad. But the more you do it, like, the more comfortable you get with your camera, and the more you're like, okay, I know this is going to look better, and you just figure it out, I would say.
I would definitely have to agree, yeah, because like I've I've built such a weird catalog of work over the years. Not any of it is good until lately. I'm gonna say that. But like even like me being younger, having all these YouTube channels and these videos, like I look at them now and they're disgusting, absolutely gross. But I'm glad I made them because like not only just making stuff isn't enough, pushing it and publishing it is really important too. It kind of trains you to understand like criticism or like understand like what works and what doesn't. But as people, I guess, in this field, like if you don't have a catalog, like good or bad, like no one's gonna start hiring you.
Right.
Because I think too, like looking back at your first wedding, you didn't think it was that great, but like your next client did, and then the client after that, like you almost gradually level up each time because your skills increase, your taste is better, and like other people, I think, see that.
Yeah, and I think too, this is probably something that I struggle with the most, but just like not always needing outside validation for your work, because you know you're not always going to make every single person happy, and they're not always going to like what you produce because their style is different. And I think like not letting that drive you is probably one of the best things that you could do, because like your work is your work, and as long as you're comfortable with it and you're happy with it, like that's the best that you can do. But you can always keep getting better, but like don't let outside validation be what drives you.
Yeah, exactly. Because even though we do stuff for clients and essentially like that's who we need to appease, that is like a single person or maybe a couple.
Right.
But yeah, essentially like and I talked about this earlier today on my Instagram, which went on a huge rant, but essentially like if your creative work isn't making you feel good, like what are you doing? Like we have to meet guidelines or deadlines or someone's approval somewhere. But yeah, like we create for ourselves, and I think that's the most important thing.
And I think like when you do get into working with like, you know, clients and couples, like with what I've been doing, it does get hard because, you know, they're looking at some of them are looking at past work, and some of them are just looking for a photographer. And that's where it gets kind of hard, and you have to kind of discern like who is going to be a good client to like match with, and who is just somebody who is looking for photos. Because, you know, I mean, there's a lot of photographers out there, and some people, if they don't really have like the creative eye, like they just want photos. And so it just gets kind of hard. It does get hard because sometimes you can get paired with somebody who, I don't know, doesn't really like see things the same way you do. So you have to really I always do like, so with my weddings, like I'll do engagement sessions too. Like I include them in my packages so that I can just get to know the couple and make sure like we're a good fit.
Oh, that's pretty smart. Yeah. Because sometimes we've shown up to like a client meeting and they're just like, can you just like shoot? And we're just like, that's it. Okay. And other ones like have like, I need X, Y, and Z this way, and that's it. And it's like, sometimes I like having the structure of like knowing what they want, but man, it's really fun when they're just like, do whatever you want. Yeah.
I always make sure to, especially with photos, because I mean, everybody has a different editing style. And for me, like my editing style is what kind of sets me apart from other people, because like that's for me, like that's my art. Like I've spent a lot of time and energy and effort into putting it into that photo and making it look like how I want it, how I envision it in my head. And so I always make sure I ask them, like, have you looked at my past stuff? Are you happy with how that looks? Like, is that what you want your photos to look like? Because I mean, if they haven't looked at it, I'm like, okay, well, you need to first.
Yeah, that's really smart. Good idea. So what has been, I guess, the highlight so far of doing this? What's like your favorite moment?
As much as like weddings have been really hard, I think just like capturing, because I try to take, especially with my weddings, like I try to take a more like journalistic approach and just capture things in the moment, and just being able to capture, you know, like mother and daughter hugging, or just like the first kiss, and just like that happiness, or, you know, just the emotion of people that are there. I think that has been like the biggest thing for me, is capturing like memories and moments and real things that happen for people in their lives, that they can look back and be like, holy moly, look at how happy we were.
How cool.
I don't know. I like the emotion of it is what I like capturing.
Yeah, I agree. Pretty dope. So where can we find you whenever you get back to doing stuff?
So I have have a Facebook, which I'm more active on Instagram, and it's just Kendel Lynn Photography. And then I have a webpage too, and it's kendellynnphotography.com. So I'm working on getting it all set up. It's up now, and like you can contact me through there. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
And cut.